Hey everyone, this is Fedor.
And this is Ross, and we're from cheapwatchreviews.com.
And today we've got somewhat of a treat for you guys. It's a watch we've never reviewed before because it is simply incredible. So let me slide this out of the way and expose or unsheath what is the Sturhling box. It has a head of a man on the box, which is raised. It's a brave man. He was a brave man. He was the first to ever put on a Sturhling watch. He was a pioneer of sorts, an horological pioneer. So first thing that we're going to talk about are the things that we absolutely adore about this watch. So the first thing is...
All right, I think we covered them all.
Yeah, I think we've covered enough.
So this is the Sturhling original Tuskegee Flier, and according to the Sturhling website, this is an homage to a watch that apparently they gave to some Army Air Corps that trained some African Americans to fly combat that were known as the Tuskegee Airmen. They gave them a watch, and I guess it looked kind of like this.
Which I actually find kind of cool. I mean, all kidding aside, like we said, or we didn't say anything to the positive aspects of this watch, it's actually quite a neat timepiece with a very vintage look. It's a nice looking watch.
Yeah, I think maybe the first thing you might notice is this is not a very big watch when compared to maybe like a bus or a car or something like that. Because it's actually, this is a really, really big watch. I mean, especially for me and my wrist size. It's 44 millimeters. I remember when it first arrived, I was just shocked at how big it was. It's pretty thick too, 13 millimeters thick. And you'll notice that it's got a stainless steel, kind of matte, more brushed stainless steel casing.
Again, I think it kind of gives it that nice vintage look. Now, to compare the size to an Invicta Pro Diver, you'll really get a sense of just how small this Sturhling is. It's really small.
Not very big.
No, the watch on the left has a 40 millimeter case, which by today's standards I guess isn't large, but your Sturhling is, I mean, it's just gigantic. It dwarfs it, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. So to talk a little bit about the overall styling, it is kind of a vintage styling as an homage to whatever this watch is that they claim it's an homage to. You'd expect that. It's got a very simple black face and only has, the 3 Arabic numbers, and kind of has a matte finish to it. And the indices around the side are all, everything's all painted, so there's nothing applied, which is probably consistent with that general time.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to point out is you'll see on the dial right underneath where it says automatic is the date window and the complication, which is great, but you know that the movement, it just is not big enough for this watch because of how high up it sits. If the movement were large, it would fill the entire window. It wouldn't just be right in the middle of the dial. So, and as you'll see in the back, that makes for a pretty small display case back window, unlike the Unitas movements, the hand wind movements that most of the higher end pilots use.
Right.
But which leads us to our next point, which would be the price.
Yeah, so you can find these
which
online.
Makes up for it.
right. For typically less than $100. And so that's pretty affordable for an automatic watch. And there's some things about the movement which are actually pretty redeeming. The date complication is nice. Maybe it's not big enough. It does have a 36-hour power reserve, which is pretty good. It's hand wind and hacking, which usually you don't get for a watch under $100.
Let me show that. So when I pull the crown out, we'll see the second hand. Whoop. And it stops, so you can actually set your time, which for the watches we mostly review is quite rare.
Right.
Especially in this price range is really rare because most of the movements, I guess, come from Seiko or Miyota, the Japanese companies,
right.
And they, without getting into something that's made by ETA, you don't really see that too often. Now,
right.
The hand wind feels pretty good.
It's not bad.
I personally like a little bit more resistance, so to give you a little bit more feel when winding, but overall I'd say it feels okay. Do you want to talk about the band a little bit?
Yeah, I think the band is actually one of the nicer pieces of the watch. I mean, this is a very thick, kind of nicely designed leather band. I mean, it feels really great. And for, again, a watch in the $100 range, you don't typically get a leather band quite this nice. The white accent stitching is really cool looking. I think that really adds a lot to the overall look and feel of the watch. And then you'll notice that the clasp is engraved too. And it's a decent feeling clasp here, so really quite nice. If you look at the back again, so it does have a decorated movement. I guess you could call it decorated. It's a little weird. It's like almost over machined rather than polished. They've kind of like dug holes in it, which is a little weird. But you will notice that kind of the case back is polished and everything else is more brushed, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can kind of notice the elements where you see the indices on the other side. You see remnants of that on the opposite direction. So the little square boxes. So if you turn the watch over, you can see it follows that a scheme consistently from the front to the back. So from the design standpoint, for me personally, I like it, but with that, my one complaint with the dial is the date window. It would just be much nicer if it sat closer to the edge.
Yeah, I would say my two biggest complaints, the loom on this watch is kind of like what loom?
Yeah, it does not exist, but we're gonna have to use yours.
Yeah, I didn't even realize there was loom on this for a long time until I was outside wearing it one day for quite a while, and I came in and it just glowed a little bit. So it's like there's hint of loom. The painted face almost looks like they use like a slightish green tint to make it look like there's loom, but it doesn't light up that much. So yeah, my other complaint would be the movement is a little inconsistent. I've seen everything from plus minus 5 seconds per day to the next day it'll be plus minus 20, which is a little strange. Sturhling uses Chinese movements, which can be really good depending on which one you get. Quality control, maybe that's the issue. This one is, I don't know how to say the name of the company. I think it's Dixmont Gangozoho.
Oh no, dude! It's really pretty easy. It's actually see, told you.
Oh,
it's easy.
Okay. Well, I forgot that you speak Mandarin.
Yeah.
So it could be a little better, but it's kind of more of a fashion watch, anyways. I think so. If you're wearing it a few days and maybe it's really accurate one day and not so accurate the other, that's probably okay.
Yeah, so I guess overall, if you're looking for a pilot style watch, you're not going to find really too many automatic entries in the price range, but there are other ones that perhaps you wouldn't mind considering. But this does have a nice band, does have a fairly different dial, and it does have a somewhat decorated, somewhat accurate movement. So yeah, I don't know, what do you think overall?
Yeah, for $100 I think that's okay. And there's a lot of controversy around Sturhling. They kind of claim to have a lot of history, and that's been up for debate, and they kind of claim to be a Swiss watchmaker, but they really aren't. But you know what, for the price range and what you can get, and it's an automatic watch, I think you do much worse.
Yeah, and I agree. So with that, we leave you to make your own decision.
Ta-da! 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 Ta-da!